Ted Cruz, the Republican rising star and senator from Texas, finding himself in the middle of a face-off during a Dallas town hall. His opponents, hecklers, angry about Cruz's very outspoken stance against Obamacare.
There is a new paradigm. Gentlemen, thank you for sharing your views. You know, part of the First Amendment is about respecting the views of others. Sir, you know, I'll make a couple of observations about those two young men. Number one, I agree with them. They should have health care, and Obamacare is causing more and more people struggling to climb the economic ladder to lose their health care. And number two, in the world of AstroTurf, fake grassroots, you know, President Obama's group, Organizing for America, is trying to pay people to pretend that the grassroots are with them. I got to tell you, every time they've come to protest in Texas, they've sent a small group of people, and y'all have outnumbered them 2 and 3 and 4 to 1.
He's smooth. Cruz calls Obamacare, quote, probably the most destructive law that's ever been imposed on the American people. And he is backing a plan to defund Obamacare, even if it means a government shutdown. Joining me now to discuss, CNN political commentator and columnist for The Blaze, Will Cain, and HLN contributor and Hiram College political science professor, Jason Johnson. Welcome to you both.
Good morning.
Good morning. Okay, so I'll start with you, Will. Ted Cruz says, hey, Obamacare is causing a lot of young people to lose their health care. And in part, he's right, because a lot of companies are opting out of paying health care because of Obamacare.
Right. We just saw the news this morning that UPS is dropping the spouses of something like 15,000 employees, and they're blaming specifically Obamacare. Carol, you know what's awesome about that clip that you just played of the heckler and the Ted Cruz rally is that it really begins to embody the current status of Obamacare. A small minority that still supports Obamacare spouts off cliches like healthcare is a right, and if you have it, I should have it, while a growing majority, symbolized by that crowd, sees that it's falling apart. Almost every poll now, over 50% of Americans oppose Obamacare, and why wouldn't they? As deadlines are missed and problems mount up, Obamacare simply, the truth of it, is starting to become very apparent to everyone.
Most of the polls I've seen, it's pretty evenly split. Right, Jason
over
Johnson?
50%.
Yeah, look, I mean, look.
And on the other hand, that you could say that some companies are opting out of paying health care for their employees, but there are alternatives under Obamacare for those young people to get insurance, right, Jason?
Yeah, you know, you can stay on your parents' insurance longer. Look, it's not perfect policy. I don't think anybody thought it was perfect policy. I don't even think liberals thought it was perfect policy. But the president was actually trying to do something about the rising costs. There are certain states or certain parts of New York where it seems to be working fine. I can talk about my own college, how it's actually increased expenses. So again, there are going to be people who have concerns. But Ted Cruz and Republicans like him who want to focus their entire rhetoric for the next 18 months on defunding Obamacare, they're not helping their party, and they're continuing this idea that they're the party of no. They have to have a better alternative than just we hate this policy.
And he's right about that, because the establishment, you know, I'm talking about Republicans here, they don't like the idea of shutting down the government and defunding Obamacare, because polls show that most of the American people will blame Republicans if the government shuts down.
That's a political analysis, though, Carol, and largely uninteresting to me. Jason's analysis that we have a problem with health care, and yes, Obamacare is imperfect, amounts to just do something. Do anything. Doesn't matter if it's imperfect or it doesn't work. Just do something. And that is a big problem, because for many of us, we see this is a seminal point in American history. You are attempting and clearly failing to restructure 1/6 of the American economy. I don't blame you for not being able to do that. I blame you for trying. It was an impossible task.
Okay, well, let's move on to topic number 2, because this has been very much in the news lately. Ted Cruz has been in the headlines after news of his Canadian birth sparked a question of dual citizenship. Here's what Senator Cruz had to say to CNN's Candy Crowley.
I have to get this birth certificate off the table. Why? I think it's fairly cool that you had dual citizenship. You could go run for the Canadian Parliament. You can go run for president. What's wrong with that?
Well, look, I think it's the silly season in politics. This past week, the Dallas Morning News asked me for a copy of my birth certificate, so I sent it to them. And they ran a story, and it seems a whole lot of media outlets, I guess it was a really, really slow news day, but they ran with the story, which is fine.
But Jason, didn't Donald Trump initially bring this up?
Donald Trump brought this up. Look, you know, when you roll around with crazy people, you end up with a propeller hat on. That's the situation that he's got going on right now. It was the Republican Party that promoted and appreciated and pandered to the birthers, and that's where some of this nonsense will come from. Ted Cruz has dual citizenship. Lots of people have dual citizenship. That's not going to prevent him from running, and I don't even think it makes the Tea Party people hypocrites. I just think it is the silly season, like he said.
Well,
I totally disagree. It's not a silly discussion to be had. First of all, legally, can Ted Cruz run for president? That's pretty clear. Every legal analysis suggests he's a natural-born citizen. And that's the phrase that the Constitution includes. You must be a natural-born citizen. But why was that included in the Constitution? Because there was a natural suspicion of immigrants. Now, that may sound xenophobic, but in the 1700s, there was a fear that the British aristocracy would come and try to co-opt American government. Essentially, it revolves around the concept of allegiance and loyalty. So we arrived today at Ted Cruz having dual citizenship, and he's now renounced his Canadian citizenship. I actually think that's a good idea. I want to know that 100% of his loyalty and allegiances are to the United States of America. I'm not going to play this citizen of the world nonsense. It's not cool, right? I mean, it may be cool for you or me, but if you're running for president, just be loyal to America, period.
well, I was born in Canton, Ohio, and I am loyal to America, Will Cain.
Well, and I feel strongly, I feel comfortable.
Bradley Manning was born here, and he wasn't loyal. I mean, this is a silly discussion. I think Ted Cruz has promised he believes his country.
We're going to have to end it here because I think, Jason, you're right. It is a silly discussion. Will Cain, I love you. Jason Johnson, you too. Thanks so much for being on this morning.
Thank you.
Still to come in the newsroom.